The journey starts with a teenager who only wanted to party, who only wanted to have fun, to enjoy life and everything, and ended up with this person standing in front of you who's probably carrying a weight of an entire world upon his shoulders. So I was 17, it was 2003. My parents decided that I should go to med school. I wanted to go to art school. But I said, okay, I'm smart enough, I can also do both. So I went to Armenia to study medicine. And for 7 years in Armenia, I studied medicine, I partied as much as I could. I've made a lot of friends, and I enjoyed every moment of it. I've learned new language, I've learned how to be an excellent chef. And then graduation time came, and it was time to go back to Syria. So 7 years, I was really happy. I've learned a lot, I've grew up a lot, and I'm 24, it's 2010, and it's time for me to go back to Syria. And flying back to Syria, all I felt was that I'm proud. I'm this young, I'm already a doctor. I can start working in a hospital, I can start making change. And that's what I was hoping for. So by the time I started my specialty training in Syria, unfortunately, the country had already slipped into a war that is ongoing still. So instead of me going to a hospital where I'll be learning things and I will be helping people, helping within my field, I ended up seeing a lot of people, a lot of cases that I never imagined that I would be seeing. I was seeing at the hospital around 120 cases every day. My specialty training was supposed to be in plastic surgery, but I ended up doing trauma surgery because who needs a plastic surgery when everyone is dying around? And we were often running out of medication. We were often running out of electricity, running out of fuel, running out of everything. But we kept on going because there were so many people that needed help in those areas, wherever we were living. And numbers of the injured were just going up and up. And we weren't even noticing on how little of supply we were able to function, and we were able to help as many people as we could. Electricity, we were getting at about 8 hours a day, then it's 6 hours a day, then it's 4 hours a day, then it's only 2. But you don't notice these things when you are living in that situation. Now that I think about it, more than often that I had walked back home from the hospital in total darkness. You couldn't see anything because there is no electricity in the city. You could only hear the sounds of bombs in the background. And I couldn't dare shine a light on the road to see where I'm stepping because that would give out my location and that would make me a target to whoever, like whichever thieves or criminals or, there's a light, that's a target. We go there, we mop them because he's carrying a mobile. They wouldn't think that it's a torch phone. So things were already bad like that, but this is not what was strange. Not the bombs, not the lack of food or gas or electricity or anything. What was strange is that all of us felt that that was normal. That's how life was supposed to be. Because it happened gradually over 2.5 years between 2011 and 2013. We just gotten used to it. So we were like, there's no electricity today, no electricity, it's okay. That's how life is supposed to be. And things were already bad, but they got worse. I was working in a hospital, in Raqqa city in Syria. It's March 2003, and I hear people screaming on the street, and they're saying, I'm sorry. I thought I was over this part of my life, but apparently I'm not. So I saw people running on the street, and they're screaming. Sorry. They said Al-Naim area was hit by bombs. That's where my family lives. So I ran there as fast as I could, and I saw people running towards the area. I entered the street. My family's car is on fire. I see our roof is on fire. I see my father standing outside, covered in dust. All I had to do there is is everyone safe? Is everyone safe? I'm screaming. And they said, yes, everyone is safe. And I said, it's time to move. We're not going to stay here anymore. We've handled everything else, but now it's time for us to move out. And that's what we've done. We've decided to move to Tel Abyad city in the north of Syria. And 3 families actually, we were all rammed up in this minivan, airplanes flying around us. I didn't know whether we were going to make it or not. And then we were just driving to the north. We were about to go to Turkey. But the border was quite packed, so we decided to just drive to the east of Syria and see if there's any place where we could rest. My little brother, he's 8 years old, he just wanted to pee. He had to stop the van. He said, let's stop it here. I need to get down. And we said, okay, let's stop it. I was so afraid while we were sitting in the van, but when we stopped it, we opened the door, we got outside. I hadn't realized that it was spring already. It was so green everywhere. There were no sounds of bombs, nothing. Birds everywhere, cattle walking around, and I'm like, if these animals can feel happy, why shouldn't I? So I just got out, I lied down on the grass, the sun was hitting my face, and I'm closing my eyes, and I just wanted to feel relaxed, I just wanted to feel happy. That's what I did at that moment, and we decided actually to stay in that town, wherever we stopped. And I heard from one of the local nurses that Doctors Without Borders had started a project in a town that is called Abdikoy. I mean, weird names, right? But okay, so it's also about 10 kilometers from wherever we were staying. I said, perfect, I'm just gonna go there and work with them. And I went there. 3 days, I've had my rest, and on the third day, we got on the bike, we went there to Doctors Without Borders. I told them, I'm a doctor, I'm ready, please hire me, I need to work. And they said, good, you're hired, we're gonna work with you. And we started working there, and for 3 months, I learned a lot. I mean, you always hear about Doctors Without Borders. I've read and heard a lot about them. I always wanted to work with them, but I never imagined that I would be working with them in my own country. I always thought, like, yeah, we are a developed country where, I mean, we will never get Doctors Without Borders, but it happened. They were there. I was happy they were there. I worked with them. They were not what I thought them to be. I mean, they weren't only doctors. They're called Doctors Without Borders, but they're not only doctors. I mean, they're engineers, they're administrators, they're everyone. They're like a tiny society that comes to a land, a damaged land, and try to bring as much life as possible. And for 3 months, I enjoyed every moment of it. I worked there, I worked with them, I've met a lot of people. I literally lived in the hospital. And sadly, all good things come to an end. So we had to deal with a lot of desperate people, a lot of needy people. However, besides the political situation that was going on, a racial conflict arose in the area that we were in between the Arabs and the Kurds. And there was a fight, bombs all around the hospital itself gets hit. I'm in the basement, we're working, like we're operating on patients and everything. I see one of the guards, like, you're scared, you're naturally scared, bombs all around you, a lot of people are coming in blood, and then the guard looks at me and then he tells me, like, don't worry, doctor, just do your job, we'll make sure that you're safe. 20 minutes later, the same guard comes back to the hospital on a trolley, missing a hand and missing a leg. We had to deal with that. We were just functioning, we were on the emergency mode, we had nothing else to do, we had to help. And that's how the night went on. I'm looking at some of my colleagues who managed to sleep, and I'm literally envying them. I've never envied anyone in my life, but I'm looking at them and they're sleeping. And I can't sleep. There's blood all over, I mean, all over me and all around me, and there are like sounds of bombs, and I just couldn't sleep. The conflict, luckily, I mean, that active fighting lasted only for 1 day. For the next 3 days, I'm thinking, should I leave the country? Should I stay? I mean, where would I live if I left the country? I've already sent my parents, my whole family is in Turkey, but I'm still inside of Syria, and I'm thinking, but who will help all of the other people here? And all of these questions are in my head. What should I do at this point? Should I just leave? The conflict is not active anymore, so I could just stay and help. They need doctors. And this conflict in my head was quickly solved. I just met one ISIS member. He pointed this gun into my head and he said, you're next. Once we're done with them, we're coming after you. Now, I'm not sure who's them, but I'm sure who's you. So I said, okay, it's time to leave. There's nothing left for me in this country. I have to leave. And I went to Turkey. The moment I crossed the border, it's an imaginary line. There is no line that you can see when you cross the border into Turkey. The moment I stepped into it, I felt safe. Syria was 1 footstep away from me. I'm here, I'm scared. 1 footstep, I'm safe. I feel safe the moment I step into Turkey. And that's where I decided to stay, and I entered Turkey. I went. The first thing I wanted to do is just to see my parents, relax with them, see them after a long time. I haven't seen them. And I went to my parents. You're feeling safe already, and then you see your parents, and once you don't have anything else to worry about, you realize how much older you have grown and how much older your parents have grown. I'm looking at my father. He has really gray hair, wrinkled face. My mother looks older. I mean, that's when you start realizing, wow, where did all this time get robbed from me? And but again, if anything, we were resilient. We were strong, and we stayed as a family. And in Turkey, we spent about a year and a half together, and that was just perfect, you spending time with your family. During this year and a half, I got in touch with Doctors Without Borders again, and I was working with them, with the refugees inside of Turkey. And by the end of the year and a half, I mean, it was around 2014 that I was applying for scholarships. I mean, I wanted to move on. I didn't know whether I could stay in Turkey or not. I wanted a future for myself this time. And I got a scholarship, and I came to study international health at UCL in London. But when I received the scholarship, I didn't feel as happy as one should be. You're coming to London, you know, who comes to London? Nobody comes to London, well, except for you guys. But for me, that was a dream. And I'm going to London, but I didn't feel as happy. I'm in the airplane, and I felt nothing, you know. I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm coming to London, it happens. And I'm getting down at the airport, and I'm seeing the policemen trying to check for, like, you know, the security checks that they do at the airports. And I'm thinking, oh, okay, I'm an Arab, I'm Syrian, I'm Muslim, I'm from Raqqa city. Yep, they're gonna ask me to take off your clothes and let's search you. And I was ready for that, honestly. I said, yeah, let them do whatever they want. I'm just gonna go in. I have nothing to hide, I'm a doctor. They should let me in. And I went there, and the police officer said, step aside, please. I said, yes, of course, I'm ready. I stepped aside, and he said, I'm so sorry for what happened to you. I'm so sorry for what happened to your family, to your country. And that made me feel welcomed here in the UK, you know. That little act of kindness from that cop, he didn't ask me anything security related. He said, I'm just so sorry for what happened to you. And I'm glad that you are here with us. How is your family? Is everyone safe? And he's checking up on me. And he hand drew a map for me to get to Hockridge House for UCL. If you're a UCL student, you would know that. And he even told me how to book a tube ticket and everything. And he said, welcome to the UK. And that's when I started feeling like, yes, maybe I should feel happy, because now I'm in a new country, it's a new world, it's everything. And I've started studying at UCL. I've met some amazing people, but I mean, it was a very intense course, and then you're slowly trying to come to terms with reality that now you're in a safe country. And the second semester was supposed to be in Norway, so I flew to Norway. But throughout that time, I'm just feeling like, yes, now I'm focusing on me, but what about all of these people that I have left behind? My family is safe, all right, but what about all of the hundreds, all of the thousands that I've worked with, and they're still needy? And that guilt was growing on me slowly. And I got to Norway, and my brother, who was a refugee in Norway, he welcomes me. I think he still holds a grudge because I didn't hug him when we welcomed. He's literally trying to hug me, and like that. I said, later, I just want to go and rest. But I think what happened then is just, I was emotionally exhausted. I didn't know what to feel or how to feel. I was deprived of emotion. I just wanted things to move, things to reach somewhere. I mean, when I was working with people, helping people, that was who I am. But now I'm just studying, I'm not helping anybody. I didn't know who I was. And in Norway, 3 months in Norway, I don't know how they passed those 3 months in Norway. And I didn't know what to do. What was the next point that I was supposed to do? I mean, should I go back to Turkey, just work with refugees again? But there is no future for me in Turkey. I also have to think about myself. Should I go back to the UK and apply for a refugee? But if I do that, that means that I have surrendered. Should I just stay with my brother in Norway, but I don't speak Norwegian? So finally, I just come to terms that I was as damaged and as helpless and as needy as all of those people that I have worked with. And it was time for me. It was time for someone to take care of me. And I've decided to come to the UK and apply for an asylum. And that's when I moved back to the UK. And I applied for an asylum in the airport. Only this time at the airport, I wasn't feeling nothing. I was feeling very sad. Because the moment that I applied for an asylum to be a refugee, the moment that I was already a refugee, and that means that I will have now to deal with the stigma. That means that I will now have to deal with the heartbreak, and that means that now I have to start from zero again in a new country. And it took me about 6 months to recover from this feeling, but I was in Cardiff, I was recovering there, and then 6 months later, I've decided, like, yes, it's time for me to move on. It's time for me to go back into helping people. And I've written to everyone. I'm like explaining my situation. This is who I am. These are all my degrees. I've worked really hard to get them. Can you hire me? Can you just make me come back to helping people? And all I was getting back were answers like, sorry to hear about that, but there's nothing that we can do. I don't have work experience in the UK, and all I've received were all these answers that weren't really helping me recover or get to where I wanted to be, but I didn't give up. I said, all right, how do doctors come back to being doctors in the UK? They pass exams, and I started studying for the exams. I needed money to support myself, so I applied for a job as an interpreter at the hospital, Great Ormond Street Hospital here in London. And I started working in the hospital as an interpreter and studying for my license exams. And I've luckily passed the language exam. I've passed both of the license exams. And I've recently, last December, I've applied for license to practice in the UK with the GMC. However, because I'm from Syria and because of most of the hospitals that I've worked with have been bombed, they don't exist anymore. They don't hold the records that are needed for me to get licensed here. They've been investigating my application at the GMC for the past 3 months, and they were about to close my application last Thursday, but I just asked them, I provided more information, and they're looking into it now. Most likely they're just gonna tell me, sorry to hear about that, we can't help. I don't know, I hope not. But even if they do that, I mean, I will not give up. I will find another way to get back into practicing. And yep, this is where I am today, standing in front of you guys and telling you about the story of my life. I mean, if I were to imagine my life 10 years ago, where I would be 10 years from then, I wouldn't imagine that I would be in London speaking at a TED conference. I don't know, I would have had my own plastic surgery practice in Syria. Don't be judgmental, it helps. Yeah, and I mean, and then I don't even know what type of life I want to live. I mean, when I went to Armenia, I've taken my Syrian experience with me, listening to Arabic music, cooking Syrian food and everything. When I went back to Syria, I brought back my Armenian life with me. The party life, the lounge, kind of like the open-minded people around you and everything. And when I moved to the north of Syria, I've managed to take the paintings that were hanging on the wall of my apartment with me because they reminded me of my home. When I went to Turkey, I've only taken my family with me to remind me of home. And when I went to the UK, I mean, now I don't even know what life to hold on to. I mean, which life should I have brought with me? And now I'm starting from zero, and it's taking a long time to realize that. But one thing for sure I know is that I'm a fighter. It's been proven. And I will keep on fighting despair for as long as it takes to become who I was meant to be. Someone who helps people to live with dignity and as much happiness as they can. Thank you.